think in a few seconds we're going to be live now.
Mm-hmm.
Keep refreshing and see.
Yes, we're back now. So, hi everyone, and welcome to the Facebook Live series of Stories Reborn, written by Ashraf Khair and a team of teachers in Gaza, as well as illustrated by Nada Rajab from Gaza. So today we're having the story of the Storks and the Snake, narrated by Peter Oswald again. So yeah, over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Zainab. And hello, everybody again. Yes, it's me again. And I'm very happy to be doing the story of the Storks and the Snake, because it's got an owl in it. And last night here in Cairo, I decided to go up. Well, I go up on the roof every night to look at the moon, and it's a full moon. So even though I was very tired, I thought I must go up on the roof. And I was just looking at the moon when suddenly a large bird flew over, looking down at me, searching round the houses, and flew right over my head and off across towards the neighbouring buildings. And it was an owl. I don't know what kind of owl it was, but it was a large owl, and kind of white in colour, very, very strange, very mysterious. I think it was hunting for weasels, what we call weasels, which there are lots of them here in Cairo running about. So it seemed quite right, having met this owl, that I should be telling a story today that has an owl in it. But the main creatures in this story are not owls. The main creatures in the story are storks. And I haven't seen any storks here in Cairo. I don't know if they have them here. The last ones I saw were in Italy, in Pavia, up in the north of Italy. And right by the river there, that comes down from the mountains, I saw high above a long, long line of very, very large birds with very long legs trailing behind. And these are storks. And in this story, there are two storks who have made a nest just outside a little village. And if you've ever seen a stork's nest, they're very, very big. They pile up twigs and sticks on each other. Every year they pile up a few more until there's a great big heap of sticks on a roof. And on the top of the sticks, there's their nest. And these storks had built their nest in a tree, in the top of a tree. And their parents had built, or the parents of one of them had built a nest, had laid their eggs in the nest there. The mother stork was born in that nest. And generations of storks had lived in that nest. It was very, very big indeed. So the storks who lived there were very proud of this tree, very proud of this place, very proud of the village they lived next to, and they watched the people going to work and going in and out of the village all the time. This was a very old stork's nest. And everything went perfectly well with the latest, the newest storks to be using the nest, Mr. and Mrs. Stork of our story, until one day, unfortunately, a poisonous snake decided to come to live in a hole at the bottom of the tree. There was a hole which some animal had dug out long ago to live amongst the roots under the tree, in a very safe place there with lots of tunnels going in and out of the roots of the tree. And that's where the snake lived. And unfortunately, when the storks had laid their eggs, and the female stork, the mother-to-be of the storks, had sat on her eggs for long enough for the eggs to hatch and for the young baby storks to emerge, to break their way out of the eggs and to start squawking and calling for food with their big little beaks flashing open like this, demanding food, and the mother and father flying off, getting their food for them little worms and little lizards and things like that that baby storks like to eat. The snake heard the squawking of the hungry little baby storks up at the top of the tree, and it made him feel hungry, and he started to climb up the tree. He heard the mother and the father stork fly off searching for food for the little ones, and he wound his way up round the trunk of the tree, up to the top of the tree, and he wound his way into the nest, into this great heap of sticks and twigs on the top of the tree, and he wound his way up through the twigs until his head burst up right in the middle of the nest, and he saw the little nestlings all around, and he went and he gobbled them all up. He ate them all up, and then he slithered back down the tree full of little baby storks, back down into his safe, dry nest under the roots of the tree. And the nest was silent. And a little bit later, the father stork and the mother stork came flying back with worms and lizards and little scorpions and little things that baby storks love to eat. But there was nobody there. There was nothing there in the nest. It was empty. There was no one for them to feed. They couldn't understand. They immediately started searching for their little ones, and then they flew off around the area asking questions from their friends. Have you seen our babies? Where are our babies? Flying through the village to the next village, looking for them, couldn't find them anywhere. And so at last, they decided there was nothing they could do. Nobody had any idea. No one had any news of what had happened to their babies. And they settled down and they decided to try to raise another family, to raise more little chicks, to have more eggs. And so the mother, the female stork, she laid more eggs, and then she carefully, she warmed them with her body. She sat on the eggs for, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. Patiently, while the father stork brought her food. And then the little ones hatched out again. And the mother and father flew off, getting them food. And then the same thing happened again. The snake heard the squawking of the little babies, and he started snaking up round the tree and then up through the nest, peered in the nest, same as before, ate up all of the chicks. But this time, the mother and father stork were just on their way back, just as the snake was gobbling up their little ones. And so they flew as fast as they could to try to get there in time to save their chicks. But they were too slow, and the snake had eaten up the last of the little ones and ducked back down through the nest and slid back down round the tree and right down back into his hole. He was a very, very fierce looking, very, very poisonous, very dangerous snake. Even the mother and father stork, they're quite big birds. They didn't dare to attack this snake. They knew that with one strike he could poison them and they'd be dead. So they simply flew round the tree, desperately squawking themselves. There was nothing they could do. So that night, the very, very sad storks had a conversation. And the mother stork, the female stork, she was saying, listen, we've got to leave this nest. A snake has come. This snake lives in the roots of the tree. This snake ate our first chicks and now has eaten our second chicks. our second batch of chicks. That's, I'm not very good at counting, but that's 11 or 12 chicks we've lost to this snake. My heart is broken, open like an egg. And I can't bear to live in this nest anymore. I think we should fly away. We're going to have to fly away. Any chicks that we have in this nest will be devoured by this evil snake that has come to live among the roots of this tree. And the father stork said, I understand, I fully understand what you're saying. This nest, which we're so proud of, which generations of our ancestors, our fathers, our grandfathers and grandmothers have lived in this nest. We're very proud of this nest. We're proud of this tree. We're proud of this place where we live. We can't live. We can't leave. We can't live if we leave this. Where will we go? This is the only tree for us. This is the only nest for us. We must think of something else to do. And the mother said, well, we need someone very, very clever to tell us what to do about this, because I can't see how our little ones are going to survive if we lay eggs and hatch them in this nest. We might as well just kill them before they hatch. The father said, no, don't despair. We are large, courageous birds, but we're not very intelligent, let's face it. We're steadfast, but we need to ask the wisdom of one of the really wise birds. For example, the owl. Let's fly over to the forest where the owl lives and ask the owl what he thinks we should do. So they did exactly that. The owl was famous for wisdom, for cleverness, for always knowing what to do. So they flew over to the nearby forest, a big dark forest with huge old trees, where the owl lived in a hole in the top of a tree. And the storks, they landed on a big branch, and they walked along the branch sideways, as you have to walk along a branch. And they came to the owl's hole, and the female stork stuck her beak into the hole where the owl lived, and said, Mr. Owl, are you there? Could you possibly come and have a talk with us? We have a big problem. And the owl, who was busy thinking to herself about many things, she came to the opening of the hole and said, yes, tell me what your problem is, and I'll see if I can think of some answer. So the female stork and the male stork, the mother and father stork, spoke with the owl. They explained their situation, the terrible situation where their nest they loved so much had now become so dangerous for their chicks and for them. And the owl came up with a very, very clever plan. She said, near this place there's a river. Do you know where I mean? And they said, yes, the river. And you'll have noticed that in that river, the princess and her sisters go swimming. These very wealthy, powerful human beings. And when they go swimming, they take off their jewelry, their necklaces and their bracelets, all made of gold with twinkling diamonds and rubies. Now, Mr. Stork, what you need to do is to fly down to the tray where they leave their jewelry glittering and glowing in the sun. And you need to take the most beautiful bracelet glittering with diamonds and gold and glowing with gold that you can see, and you need to fly off with it and you need to drop it in a certain place, which I'll explain. Now, these jewels, as you can imagine, they don't simply leave them lying there, the princess and her sisters. No, they're guarded by fierce soldiers with spears and swords. So if you do as I say, you'll see that my plan is a wise one. So off you go and play the parts I have told you in this clever plan. So they flew off. It was night time. You always talk to owls at night. They went and they slept the night in their nest. And as soon as the sun rose, they looked out over their nest and they saw the princess and her sisters swimming in the river nearby. And they saw the soldiers standing guard over a sparkling tray full of jewels. And they flew down. They flew down to the river. They skimmed along the surface of the river, and then they landed just by the tray full of necklaces and rings and beautiful golden ornaments. And the male stork, with his beak, picked up the most precious, expensive-looking bracelet of gold and diamonds, and he lifted up his big wings and he flew off with it. And just in case the soldiers hadn't noticed, the female stork made a loud squawking sound with her beak. So the soldiers turned, and the princess and her sisters in the water turned, and they saw the stork flying off, carrying their dazzlingly bright, glittering, beautiful bracelet, which had belonged to the princess herself. It had been given her by her father, the emperor, who said, never, never lose this. Never, never lose this, my daughter, for this bracelet is the sign of my love. And if you should ever break it or lose it, you will lose my love. He was that kind of emperor, not a very nice man. So she was desperate. She very nearly ran naked out of the river, but she didn't quite dare do that. She just shouted at the soldiers, "Get that stork! Get my bracelet back!" And the soldiers gripped their spears and their swords and they ran. And the storks were flying over the land, and the soldiers were running along the land. They were throwing their spears at the storks, but not getting anywhere near. What the male stork did, who'd got the bracelet, he swooped down and he very cleverly dropped the bracelet so it landed plonk right in the hole of the snake, where the snake came in and out from his safe place under the roots. And the soldiers were running. They had their eyes on the bracelet. They saw it fall. They thought that they'd made the stork drop it by throwing their spears, but it wasn't that. He dropped it on purpose into the hole, into the opening of the hole. The soldiers came rushing up, stamping, and as they were about to reach down and grab the bracelet from the hole, the snake came shooting up, ready to defend his hole against these attackers. And the soldiers stabbed him with their spears and chopped him with their swords, stamped on him with their feet, threw stones, until this ferocious, dangerous, chick-murdering snake was slashed and smashed and speared into little pieces. And the soldiers picked up the bracelet. They looked up at the storks and they said, "Don't do that again. Don't ever steal a princess's bracelet again." And the storks looked down and said, "We won't," but they said it in stork language, so the soldiers didn't understand. But the soldiers carried the bracelet back to the princess, who by now had got her clothes on, and she was standing by the river. She was so happy, she was so relieved to get her bracelet back. And the storks looked at one another and they said, "That owl is a very clever owl. We were not strong enough ourselves to beat the snake, to stop that snake that was destroying our chicks. But with a bit of help, we did it. And now we're safe. Hallelujah. And thank God. And that is the story of the storks and the snake.
Thank you so much, Peter. I mean, we can listen to you every week. It never gets boring. It's really beautiful the way you're narrating the story. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Would you love to add anything, any comment about the story?
Yeah, I mean, I think the I think the reason why that story is included in the book of Stories Reborn, perhaps, is because it's a little bit similar to the situation in Gaza,
Yeah,
and I think it's probably fairly obvious in what ways that the Palestinian people do need help to get rid of this monster that is seeking to destroy them. And yes, so the idea from the story that there's even an impossible problem has got a solution. Even a seemingly impossible problem has got a solution. But you need to look sometimes outside yourself. It might be in prayer, or it might be asking a wise person. But it's a good idea to not give up, but to think, okay, where can we turn? Who can we ask? Maybe there's some new ideas we haven't thought of. Maybe there's help we haven't imagined yet. That kind of thing. In any situation, I think it's true. So it's a very important story to remember, if ever we feel, okay, this is the end, there's no way to turn, then just think, okay, who's my owl? There must be someone or something. Yeah, that's for me what
yeah. I
stories
mean,
say.
yeah. Injustice never lasts at the end of the day. So yeah, this too shall pass, and we'll find a way and figure it out, and Palestine will one day be free, God willing.
Yes, and it
Yeah,
requires cooperation. It requires
sure.
cooperation between the Palestinians and the rest of the world. I believe, because the rest of the world isn't helping Palestine at the moment, and that needs to change. Yeah,
Yeah, God willing, inshallah. Thank you so
inshallah.
much, Peter. Again, thank you so
Thank you,
much for.
Zaina. Yeah.
Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed, and wait us on Thursday. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.